Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on the companies we mention. Please do your own research.
So hello and welcome to the very first episode of Monday Upbeat Markets with me, Graeme Dickson.
And me, Kevin Hornsby.
So Kevin, what is the reason why we've created the show?
Well, as you know, I've been on the Sunday Roast now for 4 to 5 years, and we've had a face for radio for all of that time. So we thought we would show our faces and do some video stuff so you can see the reactions of the CEOs, and also, just to have a more upbeat way of looking at things. And that's why we've called it Monday Upbeat Markets. It's going to be coming out at the same time every Monday evening, looking backwards, looking forwards, and just talking about general market movements and see if we can inform everybody a little bit more.
Very good, very good. Anything caught your eye this weekend in terms of sport or news?
Liverpool won at last after 4 defeats on the trot. We brought Aston Villa into the Lions' den of Anfield and took them apart 2-0. But I'm not looking forward to Real Madrid on, I think it's Tuesday, and then Manchester City next weekend. So we'll see how that goes on. Arsenal have stretched the lead at the top of the Premier League, and now 6 points, but it's gone back to a familiar look. Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool, top 3. You're a rugby man, so how are you seeing England at the minute? England beat Australia 25-7. What's your thoughts?
I am not a rugby man, I'll be honest. I'm very specific about the sport I like, and rugby is something that I've never really followed that closely. But I know that England won against Australia, and that's all we can ask for as a patriot of the country.
It's a shame we interviewed Shaun day before this result, because then we could have rubbed it into him, because he's a big rugby and cricket man, I know. But I mean, England have won 8 matches in a row now, so that's tremendous stuff.
Very good.
Fantasy Football League didn't do very well again, even though I had Erling Haaland in there, 2 goals, and he was captain. So I'm falling down my league badly. So
Do you think Man City have a chance in the Premiership?
Do you know, I think the top 3 now are Arsenal, Manchester City and Liverpool are probably going to be the top 3 at the end of the season. Who's going to win it? That will depend very much on whether Arsenal bottle it. Manchester City actually play consistently, because they haven't been. And again, Liverpool. I mean, we've just had such a horrible time there in the last few games that you just don't know what's going to happen. So I think it's not wide open. It's Arsenal that are leading the way, and we'll see where they go. They look very consistent. They've got a great defence, and therefore the chances of them losing a lot of games, I think, is slim. So, but they've choked before, and maybe they'll choke again. Let's see what happens. So I'm sure I've just gathered quite a few Gunner haters there, but let's see what happens.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that. So now we would like to introduce our very first CEO on the show by the name of Shaun Day, CEO of Greatland Gold.
Hello, Shaun Day. Welcome to Monday Upbeat Markets. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Thank you, Graeme. Thanks very much for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So how is it being the number one company on AIM at the current moment in time?
It's a good achievement for Greatland, where we've been really appreciative of the support we've had in London over the years, and we're really pleased to kind of have that recognition. Plus, we got the LSE, I think, AIM Transaction of the Year as well award just recently. So it's been a really good couple of outcomes for us over the last 12 months post-acquisition, and converting a $540 million Australian acquisition into a plus $5 billion market cap. That doesn't happen all the time. So we're really grateful for the opportunities we've had.
So Shaun, now we've transferred from faces for radio to faces for video. Thank you for coming on the show. First question would be how are things going at Greatland, and just in general? Obviously, we've seen the recent results. 81,000 ounces of gold, 3,366 tons of copper, all-in sustaining cost 2,155 per ounce of gold. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, look, those headline numbers are extraordinary. We have $750 million of cash at bank, debt-free, 10 months after starting with nothing. So I think that tells the story really well. A gold price tailwinds helped, but it's the operational performance that I'm most proud of. We've done all this safer. We've taken the TRIFR rate from about 10 to 14 down to 6.5 or 6.5 in the space of 10 months. We've improved recoveries through that mill from about 81% gold to 88%, 88.6% in the last quarter. That's extraordinary. Copper recoveries from about 70% to 80%. Underground development we've taken from about 150 meters a month to in excess of 450 meters a month. So we've invested, taken it to a record 240,000 meters of intended drilling this year. So it's those operational outcomes that I think have driven. That's been the foundation of our success, and I think to do that whilst integrating an asset and to reinvest in Telfer, I think has been an extraordinary outcome.
Yeah, I think you might actually be getting a look at the Irish here. I mean, with a gold price in excess of 4,000 US dollars and well over 5,000 Australian dollars. I see one of the interesting questions I wanted to ask you is, you put these puts in place of $3,905. That was in US dollars, I assume, and 4,200 for 2026. How do you envisage the gold price going? And my second question is, you've got all-in sustaining costs increasing. Now, is that because you're going to be doing a lot more drilling, a lot more safety, or you're just being on the safe side?
Yeah, look, those put options for good ordering Australian dollars, so they're significantly out of the money. But put options are the path of least regret. They expire. It's like taking out insurance on your home or your car. I don't secretly hope my house is going to burn down each night. I hope I buy the insurance but never use it. That's a little bit the way I look at put options. So we fully participate in the gold price, but not, if it goes below 4,200, which seems increasingly unlikely, but that's the minimum price we'll get for the exercise of those puts. Look, overall, in terms of the cost structure, those operational improvements we think we see. If we can continue to drive them, we have and the ounce profile, we can achieve at the bottom end or better of guidance, and that's what I think every company seeks to achieve each year. And we've done that really well for one quarter, but one swallow a summer doesn't make. We've got 3 more quarters to deliver.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in terms of the gold price you were talking about, obviously, if we're looking at $4,000 US, I've personally seen, Javier Uncle be deliver that without debt, if this price continues, possibly. But I think in terms of the volatility, those put options are super important. I mean, if you look back historically, obviously, we've had this massive gold run in 2025. But back, in the 1970s, gold went from $35 to $190 by the mid-70s. Then it crashed 50% to about 100, and 4 years later it was at 850. So you have this kind of situation where gold is coming up, coming down, but surely with oil so as low as it is, gold as high as it is, the margins that you're going to be making over the next couple of years are going to be extraordinary, aren't they?
Well, look, you've seen the $750 million of cash generation into the bank over 10 months. I think we've made about $850 million, $885 from Telfer over that same period. So you can observe that cash generation. And that was probably done at an average gold price, maybe 1,000, 1,500 lower than it is right now. So look, we have every opportunity to do well. But again, it's the operational discipline is where we need to focus, and gold price perhaps will look after itself if we look after the volume and the cost.
And then in terms of exploration, massive amount of exploration going on, But what are you most excited for in terms of results coming back over the next few months?
Oh, look, there's two really significant opportunities for us in that exploration. I think firstly in the open pit, that big stage 2 extension, we've already added a couple of years to Telfer open pit mine life with stage 7 cutback, but that stage 2 extension is a really large volume. As we drill out that and become more confident on it, I think there's great opportunity there. And in the underground, that West Dome underground, it's a whole new quartile to that mine. You've got above the open pit main dome and West Dome, underground main dome. Now you add to that the West Dome underground. We think the size of that prize is really significant. We're very early in the drilling there. Again, we need a lot of work to really demonstrate the potential, but we couldn't be off to a better start. The strike length, the widths encountered, and of course, some of the highest grades you've seen, average grades you've seen since 2005. So I couldn't hope for a better start in accessing that West Dome underground.
When you compare the market capitalization of Greatland to its peers on the ASX, and I don't want you to talk specifically about them because many of them are very well-run companies, but it seems there's a huge value disconnect there between, the amount of gold being produced, the reserves in the ground, the all-in sustaining costs. Do you think Greatland is heavily undervalued compared to your peers?
Don't answer that question, Shaun. It's a trick.
Have you cut it out?
No, we're not going to cut it out. Carry on. I'm only joking.
Oh, look, we think over time, we have the opportunity to re-rate, but again, we've got to demonstrate that operation. We've got to demonstrate Havron with that feasibility study. But I think just in your question, you talked about reserves. We don't have a lot of reserves right now at Telford. That's why that drilling is so important, because I think we demonstrate that reserve and that mine life extension, then we can demonstrate the opportunity for value.
Yeah, how big or maybe big is the wrong word, what mine length is possible with Telfer? I mean, it really is a big resource, obviously been mined for decades, literally, but do you see the possibility to extend this another 6, 8, 10 years, or is that just pie in the sky?
Well, of course, and the example I'd use is Northern Star. We bought 6 assets from majors. From memory, 4 had a mine life of less than 12 months. All 6 of those are still operating a decade later. Telfer, with the metallogenesis kind of Telfer and Havron combined, it's a circa 30 million ounce endowment. It's globally significant. So, of course, we feel there's opportunity, especially when the gold price has virtually doubled.
Yeah. So my question is, every man and his dog drilling a hole in the Patterson is comparing themselves, and even not in the Patterson, is comparing themselves to Greatland Gold. I had one guy telling me they're very close to Greatland Gold and they were 2,200 kilometers away from me. So the question I pose is, in what stage do you think you're actually going to lift your head up and look at Telfer, look at Havron and go, yeah, we've got a fantastic prize, but there's also a bigger prize out there as well. We're in elephant country for gold. What can we look at both within our own stable and with other companies?
Look, our cash generation has allowed us to do some additional regional exploration work this year. We're looking for elephants, as you said. This is elephant country in the Patterson. We're also going to be looking at Ernest Giles, plus a lot of those surrounding explorers we support. And if they're successful, we think ultimately we have a monopoly of drilling, processing infrastructure in the Patterson. We think all that ultimately comes to Telfer in any case. So we're kind of want people to be successful at the Patterson. We're happy to work with people and support them because we think the more drilling up there, the better it is for everyone, and particularly for including Greatland.
Very good. So, Shaun, we said we were going to talk about your past, and you've already mentioned it. You were CFO at Northern Star Resources. What actually happened at Northern Star Resources in terms of the share price and from you joining, to leaving, what physically happened?
Oh, look, it was an exciting journey, and I'm really grateful for the opportunities I had at Northern Star and to work with Bill Beeman, who effectively is the leader who transformed Northern Star from, penny dreadful when Bill first arrived, operator of a single asset in Paulson's. Ultimately today, Bill established a platform that's become Australia's largest gold mine. I think it now has a $35 billion market cap. So just a great success story for the sector. And as I said, I'm very grateful for my opportunity to be there. But I joined in 2014. During that time, there was a series of transactions from Barrick and Newmont, where Northern Star added Kanana Bell, East Kundana, Plutonic, and Jundee, together with its initial Paulson's assets. And those acquisitions from majors set the platform for what became the vehicle that Northern Star is today. But again, done through operational perseverance, that mine life extension, investing in the drill bit, and reinvigorating assets that sat in the portfolios of majors, had great gold endowments, but could no longer attract drilling budget or capex budget within that larger portfolio of a global major. Then you have a local company really focused on delivering those individual assets. And that was the great success of Northern Star. And I think that's what, I came in, and Kevin, we've been speaking for years across your Sunday roast and now this new program. I think you would remember from early days, that's always been the vision I've articulated, which is the opportunity to buy back Havieron together with Telfer and reinvest in the sites. And you've seen that over the first 10 months, and I think it's been hugely successful. But I'm using that Northern Star playbook. It's a good playbook, and I think happy to be compared to such a wonderful organisation as Northern Star.
Yeah, it's almost like history's repeating itself here. From that story you've just read, that could be, or not read, but that story you've just given us is the playbook of what's happening with Greatland Resources as well. So it's very interesting.
And Kevin, that was very much the deliberate intent.
Yeah. I know you privately were telling us when we were having the interviews that this was your intent, but obviously you couldn't say it publicly in the market until it actually happened. So it is very pleasing to see that happening. One of the other things when I was doing research on this interview, was your part in the Senate in the University of Western Australia. Tell me about that, and tell me how that plays into you as a person, and maybe into your business life, but maybe not.
Yeah, look, the foundation of my career has been, the education, platform. UWA is a global, top 100 ranked school. It's a great piece of infrastructure in Western Australia. I did my degree there. I stayed at the college at the university, so effectively I boarded at the school, and my part-time job was in the gymnasium there at UWA. So it was hugely formative for me in my younger days. It gave me my opportunity in career. So it's something I've always wanted to give back to the university. I spent some time on their audit and risk committee, and more recently on the Senate, which is effectively the main board of the university. So it's just a great institution. It's a wonderful university. I'm so pleased to help contribute to it and be a custodian of that university as it continues its journey. But my father was also a university lecturer, so it's always, I've always had a great respect for education and for universities. So for me, they've always been institutions I've held in great regard.
So do you serve that as a tenure? Because I see that it's 2024 to 2027. Do you anticipate you will carry on with that, or it's a case of a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, look, technically I'm an appointee of the Governor of Western Australia to the Senate of UWA. It's something I love doing. If asked to continue, I'd be delighted. It's just one of the state's great educational institutions. It's a global top 100 school. I really enjoy the intellectual stimulation of that role, because it is so different to what I do in mining. I love the diversity that provides me.
Very good. Now, I know Charles has got some questions for you, but I want to come back just to one question about where do you think a certain asset is going? We're all talking about gold, 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 but I'm looking that you just produced 3,366 tons of copper, which is a serious amount of copper. Where do you see the copper world going in the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Look, I think copper just hit an all-time high. I think, I'm particularly positive on copper. I think it's a great part of the product mix that we have at Greatland. But I look at the structural balance of the copper market. It's very finely balanced. You've had Grasberg, which is the big Indonesian asset, have a major failure, and I think that's a very significant failure. I think that puts the market in deficit. And then if you believe in AI and that growth in data rooms, I think there's just going to be a lot more demand for copper. There can be some substitution with aluminum at a certain price deck, but I think copper is on a very strong trajectory.
I mean, another metal which Greatland has exposure to, but not through production yet, is tungsten, which I've asked you about, over the past couple of years. We've now got this position where Almonty is, buying a tungsten mine out in the United States. Is becoming more and more important. Do you have any near-term plans for O'Callaghan's, or is it still on the back burner?
Look, O'Callaghan's is a wonderful tungsten deposit, and it's also got a lot of copper. It's a really high-quality deposit. It's on an existing mining lease, an existing Indigenous land use access agreement in place. Newcrest drilled it out, did its own study, and I don't necessarily fully know the mind of Newcrest in 2012, but my understanding is they intended to put that into production. They had the ore in reserve, but took a view that it wasn't wise to bring that tungsten online, given the Chinese dominance of the tungsten market and the potential recourse that the Chinese might take to stop your supply hitting the market. Now that you're seeing this bifurcation of critical metals, where the West is aware of its reliance on China, and China's being willing to weaponize trade and that critical metals, I think you're seeing Western supply chains wanting to become resilient. And I think there's an opportunity, a window for high quality assets such as this tungsten mine. Its confluence of size and grade makes it particularly attractive and in a great jurisdiction. So I think we might not necessarily become miners of O'Callaghan and tungsten, but I think we're definitely thinking about how we can create value for our shareholders from that asset. And personally, I'd love to see that come into production and become part of Western supply chains.
Perfect. That's a wonderful answer. On a more personal level, because you were talking about, doing work outside of mining. When you're doing work inside of mining, what would you say was your most stressful day, but also your best day in the world of mining? And how do you manage stress when you have gone?
Yeah, look, I guess throughout no one's career or journey is completely linear. I probably see myself as someone who doesn't really hit great highs or lows in terms of euphoric or depressive kind of mindset. I'm pretty consistent through it. So look, you take the good with the bad and roll through it. And sometimes you learn more through the challenges than you do from the successes, because success kind of reinforces what you're currently doing. Whilst I think when you have challenges, you do reassess and try to adapt and overcome. So for me, I probably can't really think of any great highs or great lows, but clearly acquiring the asset was a really significant event, I thought, for Greatland and for me personally. So that's something I'm really proud of, and it's what I set out to achieve. So I'm really glad I delivered for the Greatland platform, my intent.
And last one from me, before I let these guys jump on again. Looking ahead sort of 5, 10, even 15 years in the future, if everything goes according to plan and all your dreams come true, what does Greatland look like in a decade's time?
Oh yeah, look, I'd love to have really big ambitions for the platform. I enjoy my time here at Greatland, and I love what we've built as a team. I think in the very short term, we're really focused on just delivering of Havron, delivering of Telfer. But if we can deliver those assets and set the platform, I think how we can leverage that platform, I think is hugely exciting. So, and the gold price, the gold price is helpful, but the gold sector is, is quite diversified and fragmented. So there are lots of opportunities. Plus in copper as well to some extent in Australia. It's an undeveloped, relatively undeveloped copper jurisdiction. So we keep our eyes on opportunity, but right now I think we're really just laser focused on what's in our organic portfolio.
So Shaun, how did that run feel the day after you did that deal?
It was good. I think I was running across the ground. It was good. So it was a great, a sense of personal achievement, and enjoyed the moment. But ultimately, as I said, you kind of put that into the kit bag pretty quickly and start focusing on the next goal and the next.
Shaun, just one question from me before we wrap it up. But you've worked in coal, you've worked in potash, you've worked with obviously gold and copper. What lesson do you think you've learnt over the years that you wish you had earlier in your career?
Oh, look, I think, I'm not sure it's a lesson learned, but I think the lesson I take away from that is just how important the team around you is. I think, in all the groups that have been really successful across Straits, across Sakari and Northern Star, and I like to think here at Greatland, I've been part of really good teams. And we talk about Bill at Northern Star or Martin Purvis at Sakari. They were fantastic people, and people I've tried to take in a lot from in my own leadership style. But there were just a really good group of people around them, and that's what I like to think we've achieved at Greatland. We've brought in a really good achievement, because for everything we achieve, it's certainly not just my efforts. It's a team game. And I think that's been really the lesson of my career. It's the people around you that makes it worthwhile. It's the people around you that let you achieve.
Shaun, one question that we're going to start asking everybody, so you're going to be the first, is it's Monday evening, you've had a long day at work, you've just come back home, or wherever it is that you're going to go. What's that beverage going to be? Well,
I actually played organised sport on a Monday night. I still play basketball, so for me, it's straight to the courts and a bit of practice before the game, and probably just unfortunately to sound a bit boring, but it's probably ice water afterwards to cool down and get to a place where the adrenaline comes out so I can fall asleep.
Sounds good. Nothing wrong with water.
I thought you were going to say Castlemaine 4X, but I don't think it.
Well, that's Queensland, and I'm firmly in Western Australia, so very little 4X like over here. But that's a Queenslander drink.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Shaun Dane, thank you very much for appearing on Monday at Upbeat Markets, and wish you all the best.
Thanks, guys, and all the best with the program. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, that was a great interview from Shaun. It was really good of him to come on our first show, and hopefully you gathered a bit more about Shaun the man, as well as Greatland Resources. So yeah, on that note, we want to talk just for a few minutes about resources and energy in the sector and in the UK market, because ultimately, without resources and energy, many of these things can't happen, especially your AI centers and data centers that are required for us all to use this AI, which everybody's talking is going to change the world. So what's your thoughts on that, Graeme?
My thoughts are that we really do need to ensure that we have enough energy to cope with the projected supply of AI and obviously the demand as well. And I think that there's going to be certain resources that are really going to stand out, and I'd be interested to hear your point of view. Which particular resources you think they might be?
Yeah, we need copper. I mean, there's been 3 of the big mines had problems this year, and that is going to cause, I think, a deficit in the amount of copper available in 2026. There's not any big copper mines coming online, so the small producers should do very, very well. We've had nearly all-time highs, I think, in copper recently, and they haven't really pulled back because there is a real demand for the copper. We obviously need the copper for the transformation of the electricity in these AI data centers. You need a lot of copper in electric cars. You need a lot of copper in refrigerators, in just normal things that is bringing out the third world into the second world, into the first world, those conveniences. All of those things require copper. But any transformation of data centers, AI, needs huge amounts of copper, more than I think anybody quite understands. So, energy stocks we've got Mast Energy, who's doing AI data centers in the UK. We've got Active Energy, which is doing data centers and AI centers in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. We've got Buccaneer Energy, who is using gas and also producing oil in Texas. And they're going to use the flaring of that gas to produce Bitcoin mining. If you saw today, they had an RNS to say one of their wells was spudded. So we should know within 10 days whether that's coming to fruition. But also they raised some more money so that they could do the Bitcoin mining, either to invest in another company or to do their own stuff. So there's a whole plethora of different companies and energies. Okay, one of the other companies that we talked about in the past has been EnergyPathways. Again, you're more of an expert on EnergyPathways than me, Graeme, so go ahead and give us your view on how that would impact the UK scene for energy.
Well, the scene for the UK is that there will be times when we have excess wind power, and that wind power is not being utilised. It's effectively dead energy, because if you cannot use that electricity that's generated from that wind power, it's basically the government has to pay for it. They have an obligation to pay for it. And this is one of the things that's caused all this political backfire. That will be stopped because, or at least partially stopped, by the fact that you can turn that wind power into hydrogen, and that hydrogen can be stored. So where do you store this? You store this in the caverns that are created by companies such as EnergyPathways. But EnergyPathways also has its own gas in the Marram gas asset, which at some stage will be depleted. And once that's depleted, they will be able to store things like hydrogen and also natural gas, methane, which will come from nearby gas producers. So I think that's where a very good source of energy can come from, but provided they get all the necessary approvals from the North Sea Transition Authority and also from the government at large. And of course, the other interesting fact is they're now talking about being able to, instead of potentially like burying this carbon deep in underneath the seabed, they can actually turn that those hydrocarbons actually into, well, that carbon into graphite, into synthetic graphite. And I think that's also another very interesting byproduct of what they're doing, and should hopefully make it more appealing. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, it's got this S35 from the government, basically on the basis that this has become a project of national significance. We are basically, as UK taxpayers, throwing money down the drain every time the wind blows and we can't use it. So we have to have a solution in some way, otherwise that payment is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're not going to use it. So I think what EnergyPathways are doing in the Marram project is incredibly important. From a company perspective, they've just raised money. The valuation seems stupid in terms of what the potential is for it. I mean, in my view, it's going to be worth hundreds of millions of pounds once it's actually up and running, which isn't a million miles away, even though everybody's got the attention span of a fly at the minute. But ultimately, within 2 or 3 years, you're going to see big things happening here. And the gas alone is worth a considerable amount of money, much more than any market cap that's available at the minute. So, yeah, I think there's huge potential. Yeah, I am sure.
Do you think there's a reason why the NSTA have delayed the approval of this for so long?
No, I think it's just process. I think the S35 has come, and then they have to start their process. The process takes a small length of time, I think. I think probably within the next few weeks we will get the NSTA saying, "Here's your approval," and off it goes. It'll go big style, because then all the approvals are in place, and I think the potential then for it to have big institutional backers are there, including the government itself.
Dare I say it, it feels to me that companies like Centrica, that own the rough storage on the other side of England, have been arguably asleep at the wheel. And so all of a sudden, if you have someone like EnergyPathways that has their Marram energy storage hub approved, they're going to be wide open to potentially M&A activity.
Yeah, I don't think they've been asleep at the wheel. I think companies like Centra have been so used to getting government handouts over the last number of decades that they just expected to get more and more of a handout, I think, especially regarding Rough. And I don't think they're asleep at the wheel. They just thought that the same game was going to continue to be played. I'm not sure it is going to be continue to be played, because they're going down this "we will be green no matter what" situation. And once it started, which it has already with the wind farms, etc., you can't step back from that. It's not that all of a sudden, if we have a change in government, it's going to change. It's going to be this way for a proportion of the UK's energy situation. And, again, coming back to our first part of the subject, which was how much more energy are we going to need for AI, for data centers, for electric cars, for all the different things that our world is going to become more electrified. One, we're going to need a lot more copper. And two, we're going to need a lot more electricity produced. Now, some of the companies we've talked about, certainly from a copper point of view, you look at Bazant Resources now. It's got its finances in place, and also its mining license in Namibia for a small scale copper and gold mine. Who else have you got in the UK stock market that's got a lot of copper? We've got Greatland, who has got a huge amount of copper as well as the gold. So all of these companies, is if copper goes the way we think copper's going to go, are going to excel, because we're going to have an elevated copper price for a period of time. Another very interesting one is Extract Resources, because Extract Resources has got a huge project called Bushranger in Australia with 1.3 million tons of contained copper, but at quite a low rate. But as soon as copper gets to 10,000 plus, it's in play again. So if we have a period of time where copper is at $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 per ton, then all of a sudden that project becomes more valuable every day. And when you consider Extract's probably worth about 4 or 5 million, if we had a $15,000 copper price, that project's probably worth $100 million or more. So it's a crazy situation in terms of that. But if you want to bet on the copper price, something like that would be quite the exponential increase if it happened.
Yeah. Now there's quite a number of copper plays in the AIM and the small cap fully listed sector. The one that I remember when I was back in my days at Optiva, we used to get our clients into a company called Asia Met Resources. If you remember that.
Yeah, they still exist.
They still exist, yeah. They're still around.
But what do you think is going to happen at the minute then? We seem to have had a sort of quite a run up in terms of gold and silver, and then we've come back down again a little bit. It seems like it's building a base around $48 for silver, 4,000 for gold. But everybody in the world seems to be predicting much higher gold, much higher silver. What do you think? Are we just having a bit of a breather, or do you think?
Feels like a breather, Kevin. Feels like a breather. And I think I listened to your podcast yesterday, and I think you were talking about the decline in the dollar. It's almost been done deliberately. Or at least it feels that. And so, yeah, I think the dollar has strengthened a little bit against, at least, following against the pound. I mean, the pound, it was at $1.37 against the pound not that long ago. It's now just under 131.5. So the dollar's having a bit of a strengthening period, and I think that's had a corresponding effect on all the sort of precious metal stock, precious metals itself. And I think that's just a pause for breath. I think it's hard to really argue against these particular commodities.
It's quite obvious that the central banks are moving from US dollars denominated T-bills into gold. Maybe they will move into silver even, but though silver has the industrial aspects to it as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting times. Let's see what's ahead.
I mean, it's going to be interesting times because gold's always been seen as a store of wealth, but if you can actually make an industrial case for it, and I know there are industrial cases, but if you can expand the industrial case for it, I'm pretty sure that in certain mobile phones, there's an incy-wincy bit of gold in there just to help these mobile phones work. You can just see in other industrial elements that could really help shift the gold price even further.
Yeah, watch this space. There's a company going to be IPOing shortly on the market. Can't really say any more right now, but it's to do with quantum computing in gold, and got some very familiar names involved in it. So yeah, that should be one that's very interesting. Hopefully we will speak to the people involved in that over the coming weeks. So watch this space.
Kevin, have you noticed any notable rises or fallers today that caught your eye?
I think it's been a pretty bad day, hasn't it? Lots of things have fallen. I think the liquidity seems to not be there in the way it has been for the last few weeks, or certainly a month ago. So yeah, I haven't really noticed anything in particular.
No, I mean, I noticed Mindflare. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Used to be known as Pires Investments. They're up 15% to 0.75p. And they announced today an investment in an Oxford University spin-out to do with defence technologies. So it's an interesting area that maybe other people are starting to get involved in this sector. As we saw the first one with Defence Holdings, and now we're starting to see other ones that may emerge as a result of the success of Defence Holdings. And I see also today Strategic Minerals. Have you heard of that one, Kevin?
I haven't, no.
So they have iron ore they produce out of the state of New Mexico. So it's an asset in production. But they also have tungsten, I believe, is it tungsten or tin? Sorry, it might be tin, excuse me, and tungsten over in Cornwall.
Good.
I don't think they're in production in that one so far, but their stock is up 13% to 1.7p. And ironically, it's up 5 times in the last month. So despite this sort of liquidity situation that we find ourselves in with some of the small caps, there are a few outliers out there, and this is one particular one. And I noticed your good friend, Guardian Metals, is up 8.5% today.
Yeah, it's going back up to where it was. I mean, it went way up to 145 and then came back down to under £1. and now it's making its way back up again. So I think just natural market maneuvers, profit taking and people taking some money off the table, and then more people coming in. It's a great story, and I can see that it's going to continue. And yeah, hopefully we'll be speaking to Oliver in the not too distant future as well. Yeah.
I see your friend Buccaneer Energy. You were talking about them earlier, but they're off 20% after a fundraise.
Yeah, they raised £500,000 basically to do with the Bitcoin mining proposals that they've got, to use the gas that would normally be wasted. It's going to be used to produce the energy, then to produce the Bitcoin mining, which in a way is just exactly what we've been talking about, the resources and the energy for AI, for Bitcoin, for all of these different things that are required. We need, as a world, more energy. If we want more energy and we want to transmit more electricity, we need more copper. So yeah, this is a theme. It's not a short-term play. It's a theme that I think will just continue to move on and on and on.
Okay, Kevin, thank you so much. And I think we'll call that a wrap for tonight. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the Monday Upbeat Markets podcast. Follow us for more Mums Insights, and we'll see you next week. And remember, Mum's the word.
This podcast was brought to you by Monday Upbeat Markets. If you would like to appear on a future episode of the Mums podcast, please email mondayupbeatmarkets@gmail.com.